Hey, it's Sonny Webster here and I'm back with Mind Pump TV. Today I'm going to be taking you through the setup for the snatch. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at when it comes to setting up for the bar for a snatch is what we are looking at throughout the lift. Now we are using whatever we're looking at as a focal point for balance, and therefore it's really important throughout the whole lift that you focus on just one mark. So I always say pick something just above eye level and very specific, so therefore you lock tunnel vision throughout the whole lift. Now, I try and think about this space back here behind the bar as my think box. This is where I'm focusing on all the technical cues that my coach may have given me, as well as visualize executing the full lift. Once I step forward into the bar, I begin thinking about the process. Now, you'll go through a set process every single time that you're setting up for the lift, and it's very important that you do so you gain consistency in your setup and in the actual lift. So the first thing for me when we're talking about setup specifically then is where our feet will be in our start position. Now the way in which I find this is to think about where would I put my feet if I was going to jump as high as I can. That's where I'm going to produce most vertical force and therefore where I want my feet in the setup position. So now that I've got my feet set in terms of the width that I want them for the start position, the next most important thing is that we've got the bar touching the shins in the start position. That way, it's right over the center of our feet and means it's as close to the center of gravity as possible. This makes it so much easier to think about pushing the floor away with the legs when we start the lift. Sometimes what you see as a common fault is people will start with the bar away from the shins, and therefore as soon as you start pulling at the bar, it will tend to pull the weight into your toes. So always for me, start with the bar on the shins, weight through the middle of our feet. Now, the next thing, grip. Hook grip is an absolute necessity when it comes to learning how to Olympic lift. There's no negotiation on this. And the hook grip will allow you to keep your arms relaxed throughout the lift and also mean that your grip strength isn't the limiting factor. So I'm going to show you how to do the hook grip now in a close-up. So as you'll see, I'm gripping the bar, putting one thumb around the bar first, and then my other fingers lapping over the top. Now, if you're watching this video thinking, oh, but Sonny, I've got small hands. Don't worry, you only need to get one finger wrapped around the thumb at the very least. If a 48-kilo Chinese girl can do it, then you can do it too, okay? And you may need to bring the grip in very slightly. So now that we've got our hook grip, we've got our feet set up in the right position, toes very slightly turned out, bars on the shins, the next thing that we need to think about is where our bum height should be in our set position, okay? Now here's a simple tip for you. If your bum's too low in your start position, your knees will poke out in front of your arms. If your bum's too high, your knees will disappear behind the arms. So a nice easy way to know where the right position is once we're set and we've got our grip, knees and arms are in line. Okay, that's a great general rule for anyone of any height. And then from that position, we're pulling the shoulder blades back and down and looking up at the mark. Now, if you're in the right position, your quads will burn there, which is perfect because that's where we want all the tension and all the weight in the legs throughout the lift. So I'm going to run through this now in a little bit more pace so you can see the process of getting set up. Feet first, grip, bar on the shins, knees and arms in line, shoulder blades back and down, and looking up at my mark. It's very important that you always set up from the top down as opposed from bottom up to create that tension in the set position. So now that we've got your set position for the lift, what you need to focus on is the first pull. So we've got our grip, we've got a hook grip on, our arms are nice and relaxed, our shoulders are directly over the bar, knees and arms are in line. The next thing we've got to do now is push the floor away with the legs. Now, all I'm thinking about as I'm doing this here is making sure the bar stays in contact with the body and the angle of the back remains the same through this first phase. I'm not paying any particular attention to pulling my shins back or forcing my knees out. I'm literally just thinking about pushing the floor away, keeping it nice and simple. As the bar then comes past the knees, the focus is on thinking about squeezing the bum and bringing the hips towards the bar, making sure we maintain contact with the body and shoulders stay over the bar into our top position. I don't think at all about shrugging, pulling with my arms through this phase of the lift. The focus is only on what the legs and the lower body are doing. But what you gotta make sure you're doing from the side is that as we come past the knee of the bar, you definitely think about squeezing the bum and traveling to it up onto the toe as opposed to pulling the bar in. We don't wanna get in the habit of doing this because it'll cause the bar to kick away. Now, one last top tip for you, make sure when you hit the top position that you squeeze your bum, okay? That way your shoulders will finish just in front of your hips will finish just in front of your shoulders and you'll make sure you get full extension. It's very difficult to stay up on the toes without squeezing our bum in this position. That's connecting everything together, okay? So this is probably gonna be one of the first drills that you're gonna be practicing alongside getting into your setup position is this pull to the hip. As we're coming past the knee here with the bar, keeping it touching till we get to mid-thigh and then jumping. My only thing then is to make sure we're leading with the chest as opposed to pulling with the arms. Now, if you do find you get to the top of your pull and you think, Sonny, I can't leave the ground, it's because your focus is in the upper body instead of in the legs. So therefore, what I would like you to do, if this is you, is to regress to a PVC pipe and go through the process of thinking about jumping without the stick, without the bar, and just with a PVC pipe, and then through to the middle, going back to just an empty bar. And this will retrain the body to think about using the legs instead of the upper body throughout the lift. So I want to go over now a couple of the key points that we went over in this video. The first thing for me was picking our point that we were going to focus on throughout the whole lift. We're using that focal point for balance, so it's very important that we stay statically staring at one point the whole time. The next thing was the foot position, making sure we were in our most explosive point with the feet so that we can produce as much vertical force as possible throughout the lift. And then when we progressed onto the setup, making sure the bar was touching the shins, hook grip was a necessity, and that the elbows and knees were in line. That gave us the perfect setup to then push the floor away throughout the lift. And then finally, the explosive phase from mid-thigh, focusing on keeping the shoulders over the bar and driving up as opposed to away. This made it much easier for us to hit the top position, squeezing the bum and standing tall. So once you've practiced this a few times with the bars, I mentioned practicing this drill then with the PVC pipe. Sometimes that learning point of using the legs over thinking about upper body can be difficult. So practicing this just with the PVC and focusing on the jump instead of the pull makes it 10 times easier to learn this phase. So if you've liked this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you check out our next video, which is going to discuss talking about the transition from getting the bar from this height to overhead, and that's extremely important.